I've played The Sinking City 2 for 18 hours now, and this is the second best survival horror game of 2026. You play as an occult adventurer named Calvin Rafferty, who's made his living hunting down cursed items and forbidden lore that call upon the eldritch gods. Him and his lover Faye get in a bit too deep trying to reach the otherworldly realm known as the Dreamland. Calvin wakes up in their apartment with no memory of what occurred, with Faye locked in a supernatural sleep and the world around him crumbling, now invaded with beings that carry an infection called the Slither, and his hometown of Arkham sinking. The biggest difference you'll immediately notice just a few minutes into this sequel is the improvement to combat. Easily the first game's biggest weakness has been significantly overhauled to keep up with the likes of other survival horror counterparts like Resident Evil and Silent Hill 2. If you like the slow and methodical yet precise and thoughtful combat of these kinds of survival horror games, I'm happy to say you're going to feel right at home here. This is no Resident Evil Requiem, but it's also no slouch. The combat is solid. It's not amazing, but it's good. The over-the-shoulder shooting feels precise, while just shaky enough to give off the feeling that maybe Calvin's had some target practice, but he's no professional. And there's a decent arsenal at your disposal as well, along with some really good upgrades for your weapons if you're willing to go off the beaten path, and these upgrades are legitimately worth it, and I loved that. Not only is there a melee that you can use to stun enemies a bit to give you some space, there's a Dead Space stomp, ladies and gentlemen. Again, something in a survival horror game that's just immensely satisfying. One of the core mechanics to combat here is the weak points. You see, the Slither inhabit bodies as a host, and there's points on an enemy where you can see the Slither, and instead of just going for that squishy off switch, it makes the most sense to wait and see where a collection of Slither are going to bunch up, and the weak point will appear on their bodies, and you'll want to focus all of your fire on that one spot for the most damage. It's a fun take on something like limb dismemberment in Dead Space, where you don't just, shoot for the head every single time. You have to shoot at different spots, and it breaks things up and it makes combat a little bit more tactical. The Sinking City 2 also features that classic survival horror level design, the interconnected and confined hallways that double back on themselves and twist and turn. The level design is great. Navigating through these corridors and levels is one giant puzzle in and of itself. And even when I got a little lost or didn't know exactly what to do next, I was never frustrated because I knew the answer was there. Also, mostly enjoyed the story. It was a breath of fresh air, in my opinion, to have a pretty straightforward narrative. This is a straight-up love story about two people that are willing to do anything to stay together even when the consequences of their love become morally questionable. Ultimately, though, The Sinking City 2 is a very solid survival horror title that isn't as good as Resident Evil, Dead Space, or Silent Hill 2, but absolutely deserves to be played by any fan of the genre.